Hello again, VC. I'm back to do part 3 of my Guided by Voices Robert Pollard collection. It just goes on and on, let me tell you. I pulled all this stuff out, so I thought I might as well just keep going. Playing in the background is Do the Collapse, their 1999 album on TVT. I'll show you the vinyl in a second. So, picking up where we left off, 1998, no Guided by Voices records. Second solo album on Matador, Waved Out, which is great. Unclear is going to go on with Guided by Voices. And Pollard is frustrated with Matador, doesn't think they're capable of pushing him to that next level. And Matador is frustrated with Pollard because they think he puts out too many records. Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. In 98, 99, Pollard sets up his own label called the Fading Captain Series in partnership with Record Head and Rockathon and Luna Music record store in Indianapolis. So early 1999, the first release on Fading Captain comes out, and it's another solo album, Kid Marine, numbered, limited edition. Another killer solo album. In the meantime, he's pulled together Guided by Voices, a new version with Doug Gillard on guitar, Tim Tobias, who was a roadie, who could also play guitar and wound up subbing on some shows, and he became a rhythm guitarist, and a guy named Nate Farley on bass, and drummers continued to be kind of a rotating thing. But anyway, he left Matador and was courted by some major labels, including Atlantic and Warner Brothers. The key thing that Pollard wanted was the freedom to put out as many records on Fading Captain as he wanted to. And so one label that was delighted to do so was TVT, now defunct label. Not a good fit. Weird roster, like 9 Inch Nails and sort of industrial and rap stuff. But they were willing to, let Pollard do what he wanted. And what Pollard wanted to do was make that big sounding polished rock record that he heard in his head. Got Rick Ocasek, from Cars, to produce it. Ocasek had done a lot of producing, including Bad Brains' first record, Rock for Light, in 1981, and more recently, at that time, that Weezer record. And Pollard was willing to do whatever it would take to, hit the big time. Which included Ocasek's prohibition on drinking in the studio. It meant putting up with multiple takes and tedious overdubs. It meant allowing Ocasek to overdub synthesizers and strings on tracks. He even started dyeing his hair, his rapidly graying hair. He even let them put out a single that he wasn't real happy with. Well, the result was Do the Collapse. Even allowed them to do the artwork for the cover. And you know what? I love this record. I really do. It's so great to hear them sounding like, it's their big rock record. Well, one of two. The synthesizers make it very different from any other Guided by Voices record. And the first single is this song, Hold On Hope, which is a beautiful song. I love the song. I can understand why the label thought it was going to be, a potential hit. Pollard thought it was a little too creamy. Even allowed them to do like these radio edits for this promo single. I've never heard those. They put out this EP, the album version of Hold On Hope, and a whole bunch of B-sides. It's a gorgeous song, a gorgeous chorus. It has this weird bridge with weird lyrics about cowboys and campfires, and just a little too weird for the radio. As beautiful as it is. There's a couple of 7-inch singles, including this cool thing. I've shown this before. Surgical Focus. This wheel. Let's change her eyes. Another great B-side, Flying to Ashes. And then Creation, which was the UK label, put out Teenage FBI. Another 2 B-sides. Then the Fading Captain series in 2000 collected all those B-sides on Daredevil Stamp Collector. We do the collapsed B-sides. As you can see, there's about 10 of them. And they're great. A lot of them are produced by Acoustic, but they're left alone. There's not a lot of polish on them. So a lot of long-term fans are like, oh, B-sides are great, but Do the Collapse sucks. I disagree. I love Do the Collapse. It was around that time that I saw them for the first and only time. I knew what to expect going into it. They pound gears the whole time, and they're staggering drunk by the end. And yeah, that's what happened. And yeah, it's amazing that Pollard can remember all the words even when he's flat on his back. And I like to drink as much as the next guy. Cheers, Bob. But it was a little disturbing. Guided by Voices has been described as the Grateful Dead for the Booze Hound set. That's about right. But yeah, not an experience I wanted to repeat, frankly. So he had one more record to make on TBT, and went with a different producer this time, Rob Schnapp, who was a lot more easygoing. Let him drink in the studio, let Pollard do what he wanted, basically, but was able to get nice polished sheen, real hard-hitting rock drum sound. This is on Isolation Drills, which came out in 2000. And yeah, I dig this record a lot too. Production is much more straightforward, but very, appropriate to the material. Some great songs. The relentless touring was taking a toll on Pollard's marriage, and while he says some of these songs are not directly related to that experience, it's hard not to at least say that some of the most personal songs Pollard had ever written are on this record. I love it. A couple singles: Chasing Heather Crazy. It comes in this. Here, I'll check it out. Great pop rock song. Should have been huge. He's even like, he's not fucking with the words. It's pretty straightforward. So yeah, it's got this sleeve with them in a record store. Gotta love that, DC, right? That's Jim McPherson, the drummer. And then it comes in this like plastic thing with the text on it. Pretty cool. And then on Fading Captain, there's another single. Dayton, Ohio, 19-something and 5, which is an earlier song. I can't remember which album it's on. This is a live version, recorded in 2000 at the 40 Watt Club in Athens, Georgia. And showed what a good live band this combination of people, especially with Jim McPherson on drums. yeah, this is cool. And it has B-sides, 3, you know, just Pollard with an acoustic guitar in front of his boombox, knocking out these crazy songs. And then there's a CD, EP, Glad Girls. Don't know if this came out as a 7-inch. If it did, I don't have it. Yeah. 3 more B-sides, including the title track that wasn't on the album. So like I said, I was at the height of my fandom during this. I was really rooting for them, really thought, particularly Isolation Drills had a shot at, you know, some sort of mass acceptance. Nah. So that was it for TBT. Matador was more than happy to have them back, and having experience, not once but twice, really trying to make a big studio record, Pollard said, fuck it, I'm just going to make records in Dayton. And so while it's not, you know, lo-fi 4-track stuff, and, you know, he's working with Todd Tobias, Tim Tobias' brother, who continues to be an important figure in Pollard's discography. And, you know, they sound good, but I don't know. This sounds killer. Whereas their 2001, wait a minute. This was 2001. This is 2002. It's hard to keep up with this stuff, let me tell you. So yeah, 2002, back on Matador, Universal Truths and Cycles. A nice textured gatefold cover. For me personally, this sounded like a huge step backwards. I was really disappointed in this record. And in fact, I listened to it again today. And there's some good songs, but he's back to throwing in a lot of filler and, you know, a variety of, you know, lo-fi and hi-fi stuff. You know, it's not my favorite. Better are the 4 singles that he put out on Fading Captain. Cheyenne, Back to Visit This Place. Again, this is a case where I much prefer the B-sides to much of what's on the album. This is Everywhere with Helicopter, Back with Action Speaks Volumes. So, really nice collages by Pollard. And Back to the Lake, backed with Dig Through My Window. And the title track, Universal Truths and Cycles. Backed with Beg for a Wheelbarrow. Another case similar to Mag Earwig, where the album, I don't know, these singles are great. And the B-sides were collected on another Fading Captain issue. This is called The Pipe Dreams of Instant Prince Whippet. So, rather than pulling these out, I listen to this way more often than I listen to, probably not something Matador wanted to hear. And then another CD EP on Matador, The Best of Jill Highs, which is a good song. You know, again, could have been, should have been. There's Doug Gillard with his hair on fire. Some interesting B-sides on this. 2003, Earthquake Glue. I like this a lot better. This has a definite, it's let that prog influence really kind of come forward, and I think that comes from working with Todd Tobias, multi-instrumentalist, producer. They would go on to do the Circus Devils together, which really explores that side of Pollard's psyche. This is a great combination of, you know, that pop rock stuff, but with a you know, proggy undertones. Yeah, I like this one a lot. There's only one single for that album. Came out on Fading Captain. My Kind of Soldier. Back with Broken Brothers. It kind of looks like this version of Guided by Voices is coming to an end. And sure enough, in 2004, he announced it's going to do one more last record. Half Smiles of the Decomposed. Beautiful cover. This is a great record. You know, again, I was talking about the maturing of the songwriting. This has some really touching songs, along with some great rockers. You know, they went out with a bang. There were no singles for this. They did the big last farewell tour, and the final Guided by Voices show was held New Year's Eve, 2004-2005. I think at the Vic Theater in Chicago. It was recorded, put out on DVD, titled The Electrifying Conclusion. 64 songs, almost 4 hours. And, you know, it's New Year's Eve, they bring out one of these big Nebuchadnezzars of champagne, and they're pounding beers and tequila and whiskey, and it's a little hard to watch, but if you close your eyes, he's still nailing every song. All fucking 64. An amazing display. And with that, Pollard closed the curtain on Guided by Voices for a little while. And I think I'm going to pick up with the reunion stuff, even though it's more recent. We'll keep going with Guided by Voices before we get into all the solo and side projects. It's going to take a while, folks. I'll see you next time.